Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Happy New Year. Today's video is going to be my favorite reads of 2022, which, just to clarify, that does not mean they were published in 2022, it just means I read them in 2022 because I don't think many of these were published in 2022. Okay, so first up is Coho. I think I read more Coho books than just these three. Because I also read It Starts With Us, but It Starts With Us wasn't one of my favorites, so I just picked these three to talk about today. First is Heartbones. I rated this a 4.25 stars, which is pretty good. All of these I think are a 4-star or above, which means I liked it. Heartbones is about Bea and Samson, who come from opposite spectrums of wealth. And they meet over the summer and kind of have like a summer romance. Weird things are happening. Like Samson seems to be keeping some secrets from her. And weird stuff's happening. And so there is kind of a plot twist in this book. That wasn't my favorite part of the book because I felt like it was pretty, I don't know. It wasn't really a plot twist because you knew what was going to happen. But it had a really pretty ending, and it gives very summer vibes, so I definitely think you should read this during the summer. And yeah, I give this 4.25 stars. Next up is Reminders of Him, which I gave also 4.25 stars. My copy is like a little wet because I think I took it camping and I spilled water on it or something. This book was so good. It is about Kenna, who goes to prison for 5 years. And when she gets out, she wants to find her 4-year-old daughter. But everyone in her daughter's life is trying to keep her away from her daughter, except for one dude. And that is Ledger. And so he helps her get in contact with her daughter. And there's also, it's Colleen Hoover. So, of course, there's some romance in here. This was such a sweet book, and I loved the ending. There was this message, which I don't want to spoil it, but I really liked the ending. The ending was really sweet. And it all takes place in a small town, so there's like small town vibes. Yeah. Alright, next is Ugly Love. I also rated this a 4.25 stars, so I guess I rated all of these a 4.25 stars, the Coho ones. This is about Tate and Miles. Miles is Tate's brother's best friend, so it's brother's best friend trope. I think it's also friends with benefits trope because Miles has had like a really rough past where in a past relationship a lot went down, and so he swore after that never to have a relationship again. And so there's multiple timelines, like it goes back sometimes, and you see kind of what happened to Miles to make him so closed off. But this was a really good read. It was sweet. It was heartbreaking at the end. I cried. Yeah, the ending was really sad, but it was good. Alright, next is the rest of the romance books that I really liked. First is The Spanish Love Deception. I rated this a 4.25 stars, which I did not think I was going to like this so much. I saw how big this was. This is my first slow burn book that I've ever read. And I was kind of worried because I thought I'd get boring and I wouldn't like it. Which I will say, like, the first 100 pages were a little tedious, but once, basically, it's about Catalina, who's going to her sister's wedding, and she wants to, look her absolute best when she gets there. She wants everyone to, think she's so happy and doing so well. So Erin, her nemesis, who works in her office, offers to go with her to her sister's wedding. So they go. So there's the fake dating trope. There's a little bit of enemies to lovers. It's also workplace romance. So the story kind of picks up and takes off when they're on their way to the sister's wedding. And I really liked this. This also, you don't have to read in the summer, but I feel like it's kind of a summer read since they're in, where do they go? They go to Spain, and it's sunny in Spain, and so they do a lot of outdoor things. This was really sweet. I really liked the slow burn because I feel like my favorite part in romance books is the leading up to them starting to date. So they had such cute banter and all these cute little moments that I really liked. Next up is Every Summer After. I rated this a 4.75 stars. The only reason why it wasn't a 5 stars is at the very end, there was something that like they wrote as if it was a plot twist, but I think it was pretty obvious. So that was the only reason why it wasn't a 5 stars. But this was the perfect summer read. I read this so quickly. It's the brothers trope where there are two brothers, and it's also childhood best friends to lovers. I'm trying to remember, I read this a while ago. And it's also second chance romance. So basically, Persephone and Sam had this really awesome relationship, and then something goes down. The reader doesn't know. Something goes down, and they don't talk for 10 years. And then 10 years later, his mom dies, and so she comes back to the town and to the lake houses where they grew up for the funeral, and they see each other again. So, second chance romance, two brothers tropes, childhood best friends to lovers. Alright, next up is the Twisted series. So I've read the first 3 books in the Twisted series. I didn't put the second one in, Twisted Games, because it wasn't my favorite. I didn't like it. I think I rated it like 2 stars, just because I think I didn't like the characters and I couldn't relate to them. It's still a good book. It wasn't my thing. But the first one I rated 4.5 stars. I really liked this. Oh, it's brother's best friend. And then they both of them, what I like about Anna Huang is that she always has, it's never just about the romance. There's always, like, a subplot. There's always, this, like, they always have, like, trauma, the characters, and you kind of, like, find out more about them, and, like, the characters find out more about each other. And so a lot went down in this book, which I liked, but it was also kind of dark. So for all of the Twisted books, search up trigger warnings. But it was good, and I liked it, and I liked the way they did the brothers' best friendship. And then I just recently read Twisted Hate. I rated this a 4.75 stars. I really liked this. I read it in one sitting. It was so good. This one was a bit longer, but I think it needed to be that long. Like, when I was reading it, it didn't feel that long. This one, definitely search up the trigger warnings. It was, like, darker than I expected it to be, but it was still good. I liked how this one is about Jules and Josh, which are characters you meet in the first 2 books. And I really liked their contrast of personalities. Like, I don't know, they were different than the couples in the previous books. And I loved their banter. That was my favorite part of the book, is that even like throughout the whole book, in all the stages of their relationship, they had the cutest banter, and like they would always like throw like quips at each other and like, you know, throw insults at each other. But she wrote that really well, I think. Alright, so now for the books that were not romance. First up is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I feel like everyone has heard about or read, and for good reason. I rated it a 4.5 stars. I really liked it. There are a lot of tabs. It was very heartbreaking, and there is, like, it's not a huge plot twist, but it is a plot twist that, like, at the end that really got me, and I was shocked. And this is just very heartbreaking, but written so well, and I felt like you really got to see what it was like during this time, because it's during her whole life, so you kind of see what it was like being a Hollywood actress in, like, the 80s and the 50s to the 80s. So I learned a lot, and it was very sad but beautifully written. I really liked this book. I also cried. It was sad. Next up is Shatter Me, which I rated a 5 stars. I only had 2 5-star reads this year, so maybe I'm just too stingy with what I give 5 stars, or maybe I just need to read more next year. But this was so good. I read it in a day or 2. It was easy to read. It hooks you at the very beginning. They introduce characters quickly, and this is like a whole, I think it's like 11 books in this series or something. I only read like 3, and I think the first was definitely the best. But yeah, it was so good. I really liked this one. And it's dystopian, which this was the first, besides The Hunger Games, this was the first dystopian book I'd ever read. And I really liked it, so maybe I'll start reading more dystopian. Next up was my other 5-star read, Family of Liars. I read We Were Liars in like 2019 or 2020. I read that a while ago. And she came out with a prequel, which I love just as much. I was so worried that like my expectations would be way too high and this would not, like, I would have such good expectations and this would not fulfill, but it definitely fulfilled. It is so good, and I've heard a lot of people say that they actually liked Family of Liars better than We Were Liars, which makes sense because there's a lot going on in We Were Liars, and this one was more like kind of the life of the family, and there was still stuff going on, but it was less like, I think some people didn't like the, like, all the metaphors and like how, like, and the big plot twist at the end, which there isn't a huge plot twist at the end of this, so if you didn't like those things about We Were Liars, I think you should definitely still read Family of Liars. This takes place in the 80s, and it's basically, it's in the perspective of Carrie, which is a character you meet in We Were Liars, and it's kind of the parents of the liars. It's kind of how their childhood was, and so what it was like growing up with Cadence's grandparents as parents. So this was really good. It was really sad, but it was so well written. Also, very much summer vibes. I think you should read this during the summer. This was so good. I loved it. I want her to make another. I would read any book she read, like, in this franchise. It was so good. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Alright, now for the last book. It is The Maidens, which I rated 4 stars. The reason I rated it 4 stars is because for a while there I was getting kind of bored and like it was a little tedious, but pretty much the ending made up for all of that because I was so shocked. Like, this author, Alex Michaelides, he always gives me trust issues because The Silent Patient, and then I kept thinking, like, I guessed like 5 different people who it could be. Basically there's like all these murders that keep happening at this university at Cambridge. At Cambridge University. And I really thought I was gonna get it. I thought I had figured it out, but it was crazy, and I think the ending just made up for all of the parts that, like, maybe were tedious sometimes, because it was so good. And it also just gave very dark academia vibes, which I really liked, and I liked the setting of the university, so that was good. So these are all of the books. These were my favorite books that I read in 2022. Thank you so much for watching this video. Comment down below your favorite book that you read in 2022. And I really hope y'all have a great new year. Bye!